September 2021, a Thursday night. I'm sitting on my couch with my phone tilted away from my girlfriend like I'm hiding something inappropriate. And in a way, I am. I'm staring at my savings balance. I'd just crossed a number I'd been chasing for 3 years. A number I'd written on a sticky note and put on my bathroom mirror like some cliche from a self-help book. And I'd hit it. Actually, I'd passed it by about $400. And I remember the first thing I felt. It wasn't relief, it wasn't pride. It was this weird, quiet voice in the back of my skull that said, okay, but what about 200,000? This is a video about why that voice exists. Why the number you think will make you feel safe never actually does. Why more income, more savings, more net worth keeps failing to produce the one thing you're actually chasing, which is not wealth, it's calm. And I'm going to walk you through 5 psychological and physiological reasons your brain keeps moving the goalpost, including one that has almost nothing to do with your finances, and everything to do with something that happened to you before you were old enough to have a bank account. Here's what most people believe. They believe financial anxiety is a math problem, that somewhere out there is a correct number, a net worth, a savings balance, a monthly income, and once you reach it, you cross an invisible threshold and the anxiety dissolves. You exhale, you sleep through the night, you stop checking your accounts in the bathroom at 2 a.m. The reason you haven't felt that exhale yet is because you haven't hit the right number, so you keep climbing. That belief is wrong, not partially, fundamentally. And I can prove it. The anxiety you feel about money is real, but it's not coming from your bank account. It's coming from a detection system inside your body that is essentially broken, not because something is wrong with you, but because it was calibrated by experiences that have nothing to do with your current financial reality. And here's what nobody in finance talks about. You can't spreadsheet your way out of a nervous system response. You cannot budget your way to felt safety. The tools don't match the problem. I spent the last 8 months reading research on hedonic adaptation, financial psychology, polyvagal theory, and a field called somatic finance that barely exists yet. I talked to therapists who specialize in money and wealth. I looked at studies from Kahneman and Killingsworth and Brad Klontz and Stephen Porges. And what I found genuinely changed how I think about my own money. Not how I manage it, but how I experience it. I'm going to walk you through 5 ideas. The first 2 will reframe what you think you already know. The middle one will show you the data that proves this thesis. And the last 2 will take you somewhere most finance content never goes. Into your body and into your past. By the end, I think you'll understand something that took me way too long to figure out. This was never about the number. See if you can figure out what it's actually about before I say it out loud. Let's start with the thing everyone thinks explains this. Hedonic adaptation, the hedonic treadmill. You've probably heard of it. The idea is simple. Humans adapt to improvements in their circumstances and return to a baseline level of satisfaction. You get a raise, you feel great for a few weeks, then your lifestyle adjusts and you're back to the same emotional temperature. It's the psychological equivalent of jumping into a cold pool. Shocking at first. Then you get used to it. Then it's just water. The classic study is from 1978. Brickman, Coates, and Janoff-Bullman at Northwestern. They compared lottery winners to people who'd been paralyzed in accidents. And the finding that shocked everyone was that within a year or two, both groups reported similar levels of day-to-day happiness. People who won millions adapted. The hedonic treadmill is brutally egalitarian, so when your income jumps from $75,000 to $120,000 and 6 months later, you feel exactly as anxious as before. The standard explanation is, that's just hedonic adaptation, baby. Welcome to the treadmill. Keep running. But here's where I think that explanation is lazy. It's accurate on the surface, but it's like saying a fever is caused by high body temperature. That's technically true, but it explains nothing about why the fever exists. Hedonic adaptation tells you that satisfaction fades. It doesn't tell you why your specific definition of enough moves to the exact number it moves to, or why some people adapt slowly and others adapt before the first direct deposit even hits. Andrew Clark, an economist at the Paris School of Economics, published research in 2008 showing something more precise. It's not that you adapt to your income. You adapt to your income relative to the people around you. Your brain doesn't process your salary in a vacuum. It processes it as a rank. Where do I fall compared to my peers, my neighbors, my college roommates, my siblings? And that rank is a treadmill with no off switch, because the peer group keeps changing. You get promoted, you enter a new peer group, and suddenly your reference point has shifted. You were in the top of one pool. Now you're in the middle of a new one. Think about it like this. You don't feel the speed of a car. You feel acceleration. You feel change. The moment your income stabilizes, even at a level that would have made you weep with gratitude 3 years ago, your brain stops registering it as good. It becomes neutral, baseline, the new zero. And now anything less than that feels like loss, not like the miracle it actually is. I know this because I did it. I made more in 2021 than I ever had in my life. And by December of that year, I had a spreadsheet. I swear to God, an actual color-coded spreadsheet calculating what I'd need to earn the following year just to feel the same way. Not to feel better, to feel the same. I looked at that spreadsheet and thought, this is insane. This is genuinely the behavior of someone who is not okay. But hedonic adaptation didn't explain why I had that spreadsheet in the first place. It didn't explain the tightness in my chest when I thought about money. Even when the numbers looked fine, something else was driving it. Something deeper. Here's what I didn't understand until embarrassingly recently. Your enough number, that figure you carry in your head, the one that represents safety and freedom and finally being okay, you didn't calculate it, you inherited it. Brad Klontz is a financial psychologist and researcher at Creighton University. He spent his career studying what he calls money scripts, unconscious beliefs about money that form in childhood and operate like invisible lines of code running beneath every financial decision you make as an adult. Things like, there will never be enough, or more money means more problems, or wealthy people are greedy, or I don't deserve to have money. These aren't thoughts you consciously think. They're assumptions so deep they feel like facts. Like gravity, like the way things just are. And here's the part that matters. These scripts are almost always formed before age 12. They're formed not by financial education, but by financial observation, by absorbing the emotional climate of your household around money. I want you to try something right now. Think back to the earliest memory you have that involves money. Not buying something, not receiving an allowance. The earliest memory where money carried emotional weight, where it meant something beyond paper and coins. Can you find it? For me, it was this. I was maybe 9, and I was lying in bed on a school night, and I could hear my parents through the wall. Not yelling. Worse than yelling, that low, strained voice adults use when they're furious but trying to keep it together because the kids are sleeping. Except the kids aren't sleeping. The kids are lying there with their eyes open, catching every third word. Bills. Can't afford. What are we supposed to do? I didn't understand the specifics. I understand the tone, and the tone said, we are not safe. That moment, that exact cluster of sensations, the dark bedroom, the muffled voices, the knot in my stomach, that moment wrote a money script in me that said, enough does not exist. Stability is temporary. The other shoe will always drop. And for the next 25 years, I made financial decisions with that script running in the background, and I never once questioned it. Because I didn't know it was there. Klontz's research shows that money scripts predict financial behavior, spending, saving, risk tolerance, financial anxiety, better than income level, education, or financial literacy. Let me say that again. What your parents accidentally taught you about money before you hit puberty has more predictive power over your financial life than how much you actually earn. Two people making identical salaries, identical investments, identical net worth. One feels abundant, and one feels like they're drowning. The difference isn't the math. The math is the same. The difference is the code running underneath. This is why the number moves. Because the number isn't anchored to a rational analysis of your expenses and your goals and your inflation-adjusted retirement needs. It's anchored to a feeling you absorbed in a moment you barely remember. And no amount of income can overwrite a childhood script, because the script isn't about income. It's about safety. And the safety it's referencing isn't financial, it was relational. It was the safety of your family, the stability of your home, the emotional predictability of the adults around you. I want to pause here and show you the data that ties this together, because I don't want you to think this is just armchair psychology. In 2003, Matthew Killingsworth and Daniel Kahneman, along with Barbara Mellers as mediator, published what might be the most important happiness income study ever conducted. You probably know the background. Kahneman's original 2010 study with Angus Deaton said happiness flatlines at about $75,000. Killingsworth's 2021 study said no, happiness keeps rising with income. There's no plateau. They disagreed publicly, and then they did something scientists almost never do. They collaborated to reconcile the contradiction. What they found was this. For most people, roughly the happiest 80% of the population, Killingsworth was right. Happiness continues to rise with income well past $75,000. There's no cliff, no ceiling. More money, more happiness, in a roughly logarithmic curve. But for the unhappiest 20%, Kahneman was right. Their happiness barely budged above $100,000. Money did almost nothing for them. Before I tell you why that finding matters so much, I want you to sit with what it implies. There is a subset of people, 1 in 5, for whom the entire premise of earn more, feel better simply does not work. And the variable that separates that 20% from the 80% is not income, it's not financial literacy, it's not spending habits, it's their emotional baseline, their internal architecture, the thing they carry into every financial experience before the numbers even enter the picture. If you're watching this video, and I mean really watching it, not just letting it play in the background, there is a real chance you're in that 20%. Not because you're broken or defective, but because the people in the 80% don't Google "why doesn't more money make me feel safe?" They don't click on this video. They're fine, they got the raise, they felt better, they moved on. You're here because the raise didn't work, the bonus didn't work, crossing that savings threshold didn't work, and you want to know why. Here's why, and this is where it gets physiological. Stephen Porges is a neuroscientist who developed something called polyvagal theory. I'm going to simplify this, but the core idea is that your autonomic nervous system, the part that runs without your conscious input, has 3 basic modes. There's the ventral vagal state. You feel safe, you're socially engaged, you can think clearly and plan for the future. There's the sympathetic state, fight or flight, threat detected, heart rate up, tunnel vision, survival mode. And there's the dorsal vagal state, shutdown, collapse, numbness. The freeze response. Your nervous system is constantly scanning your environment through a process Porges calls neuroception. Not perception. You don't choose to do this. It happens below conscious awareness. Your body is reading cues from your environment, from other people's faces, from sounds, from subtle physical signals, and it's making a determination, safe or not safe. Here's the critical point. Neuroception does not read bank statements. It doesn't understand compound interest. It doesn't know what a Roth IRA is. Your nervous system evaluates safety through somatic and relational cues, body sensations, facial expressions, tone of voice, environmental familiarity. And if your nervous system was calibrated in an environment where safety was unpredictable, where the emotional temperature of your home shifted without warning, where money was a source of tension, where you learned to stay vigilant because calm could become chaos at any moment, then your neuroception is biased toward threat detection. It's not broken, it's doing exactly what it was designed to do, keeping you safe in the environment that built it. The problem is that you don't live in that environment anymore, but your nervous system doesn't know that. So you check your bank account, and the number is fine, and your prefrontal cortex, the rational thinking part of your brain, says, "We're good. We have 6 months of expenses saved. We're invested. We're fine." But your nervous system, operating beneath all of that conscious thought, looks at the same situation and says, "Stay alert. Something could go wrong. Don't relax. You know what happens when you relax." That's why you can have $200,000 in the bank and still feel a pit in your stomach on a Sunday night. That pit is not about the $200,000. That pit is a 9-year-old hearing their parents through a wall. That pit is the body remembering what the mind has filed away, and no deposit, no raise, no portfolio rebalance will ever reach deep enough to soothe it. Because the alarm isn't financial. The alarm is somatic. It lives in your body. And here's where it gets genuinely cruel. As your income and net worth grow, your anxiety often grows with it. This sounds insane, but it's well documented. UBS published an Investor Watch survey in 2015 asking millionaires what net worth they'd need to feel financially secure. People with $1 million said $2 million. People with $5 million said $10 million. Those worth $10 million and above, $25 million. The gap between what I have and what I need to feel safe didn't shrink as wealth increased. It scaled proportionally. It was the same damn gap at every level. Why? Because more wealth means more surface area. More investments means more things that can lose value. Higher lifestyle means higher maintenance costs, not just financially, but psychologically. You now have more to protect, more to monitor, more to lose. Your identity gets woven into the number. You're no longer a person who has money. You're a person who could lose money. And for a nervous system already biased toward threat detection, expanding the surface area of potential loss is like giving a hypochondriac a medical encyclopedia. You haven't given them health. You've given them new things to worry about. Okay, I want to name the thing I've been circling for the last 15 minutes. You are not chasing a number. You were never chasing a number. You are chasing a feeling you may have never actually experienced in your life. The feeling of genuine safety, not intellectual safety, where you look at a spreadsheet and conclude that you're fine. Felt safety, the kind that lives in your shoulders dropping, in your jaw unclenching, in your breath slowing down without you deciding to slow it. The kind where you don't need to check, where you just know. And for a lot of us, maybe for you, that feeling wasn't available in the house you grew up in. It wasn't available because the adults around you didn't have it to give. Not because they were bad people, because they were also running a broken detector they inherited from their parents. This thing goes back generations. So you did what smart adaptive children do. You found something you could control, something that seemed like it could produce safety if you just got enough of it. You found money, and you built your entire definition of enough around a currency that your nervous system doesn't speak. That's the answer. That's what this was actually about. You've been trying to have a conversation with your body in a language it doesn't understand. You've been showing your nervous system a number and asking, is this enough? And your nervous system keeps saying, I don't know what that is. Are we safe? Is someone going to yell? Is the ground stable? Can I trust this? And you respond by depositing another $5,000. And your nervous system says, that's not what I asked. So what do you do? How do you actually rebuild a definition of enough that works? One that your body can believe, not just your brain. I want to offer a framework I've been working with. It's not from a book. It's synthesized from the research I walked you through and from conversations with a therapist who specializes in financial trauma. I call it three-dimensional enough. This is the math, and the math matters. I'm not saying it doesn't, but financial enough needs to be specific, written down, and finite. Not a vague aspiration, a real number based on your actual expenses, your actual goals, and a reasonable buffer. The purpose of defining financial enough isn't to reach it, it's to know when you've passed it, so that when your nervous system says more, you have a reference point to say, actually, we passed enough 7 months ago. This feeling isn't about the money. The second dimension is somatic enough. This is the body piece. And this is the one almost no one addresses. Somatic enough means developing the ability to actually feel safety in your body, independent of external circumstances. This involves practices like, and I know this might sound soft for a finance video, but I need you to stay with me. Things like breathing exercises before you check your accounts, body scans where you notice where you carry financial tension, the practice of pausing when you feel the urge to check your balance and asking yourself, am I checking because I need information, or am I checking because I need reassurance? Those two things look identical, but they come from completely different places. I started doing something 6 months ago that felt ridiculous at first. Before I open my investment app, I put my hand on my chest and take 3 breaths. I'm not meditating. I'm not doing anything mystical. I'm giving my nervous system a cue of safety, physical contact, slow breathing, before I expose it to a stimulus that has historically triggered a threat response. And I am not exaggerating when I tell you it changed my relationship with my own portfolio more than any rebalancing strategy ever did. The third dimension is identity enough. This is the question. Who are you allowed to be if you stop chasing? If you hit your number and actually stopped optimizing, stopped hustling, stopped treating your net worth as a scoreboard, who would you be? A lot of people can't answer that question because their identity has become so fused with accumulation that stopping feels like disappearing. If I'm not the person who's building wealth, who am I? If I'm not striving, am I still valuable? Identity enough means building a self-concept that doesn't depend on the next financial milestone for its stability. It means being someone, not just having something. Here's what I want you to walk away with. Not a number, not a strategy, an understanding. The goalpost moves because it was never anchored to the ground. It was anchored to a feeling A feeling of unsafety that you've carried for so long, it feels like it's just who you are. It's not who you are, it's what happened to you. And the beautiful, terrible thing about that distinction is that what happened to you shaped your nervous system, but your nervous system is not fixed. It's plastic. It responds to new inputs. It can learn new definitions of safety, but it won't learn them from a bank balance. It will learn them from your body, from your relationships, from the moment you stop asking money to be your therapist. That Thursday night on my couch in 2021, staring at the number I thought would change everything, the problem wasn't that the number was too small. The problem was that I was asking a number to do something no number can do. I was asking 6 digits on a screen to reach into my chest and unclench something that had been tight since I was 9 years old. Lying in the dark, listening to my parents try to hold it together. The number on my screen hasn't changed much since that night, but I have. Not because I figured out the right amount, because I finally stopped asking the wrong question. You don't need more money. You might. I don't know your life, but the feeling you're chasing, that exhale, that settling, that moment where your shoulders drop and you think, okay, I'm okay, that feeling is not locked behind a dollar amount. It's locked behind a version of you that believes you're allowed to have it. And I think you are. I think you've been allowed this whole time. I think the number was just a way of postponing the permission. So take the breath, not because the spreadsheet says you can, because you're here. Because right now, in this moment, you are safe. And the fact that your body doesn't believe that yet doesn't mean it's not true. It means you have some work to do. But it's not the work you thought it was. And for the first time, the work might actually get you somewhere.